Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our September Brokers Business Accelerator with our Florida broker, Robert Milligan. Before
Hey
we begin,
everybody. Oh, I'm
oh,
sorry.
sorry, Robert. I'm
Jump the
just going to
gun.
go through this short intro here. Before we
All right.
begin, I want to say how happy we are to now offer a ton of great free marketing tools to all of our agents. These are now available in the AGI University. Our goal is always to give back to our agents by offering the newest tools and technology to you. None of this would be possible without you and your amazing amount of agent referrals to AJI. As Allison James continues to grow with agents referring other agents to our brokerage, we will be able to provide them more of these tools to you. Remember, you can earn a monthly or yearly residual payment simply by having an agent join us. All you need to do is contact Jeff Jabora or Alicia Aratari in our National Growth and Development Department and provide them with contact information of the agent you would like to refer over. Now I would like to introduce Florida broker Robert Milligan. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, and I like how you emphasize now. Sorry, I jumped the gun. I was just a little excited to share some information that I gathered for everybody today because we're talking about something that I personally enjoy because I know some weeks we discuss more compliance-related issues with the broker side of the business, and of course that's very important. But this week we've chosen to talk about some different ideas to generate some new listings. And if you're in a market that's a lot like our market in Sarasota, Florida, right now inventory is a little bit short, so everybody's trying to get listings because it's a little bit easier to work with sellers than it is to work with buyers in the market that we're presently in. So I had a few ideas, and I made a little list of some things to jog your memory and some things that you may already know, and perhaps maybe some new things to give you an idea how you can go about getting in contact with more sellers and getting some more properties in your inventory. So one of the things for it, if you're a brand new agent or newer to the business, that I recommend to agents that come in our market area is to try to find a listing agent that's in our company that you can team up with and leverage their listings that they've already created, because most listing agents, if they list a lot of property, if they're doing a large volume, they're going to feel like there's some holes in the service that they're giving to their sellers because they're obviously very busy and there's opportunities that they could be maximizing a little bit better. So one of the things that a lot of very busy listing agents don't do, that in my opinion is very high impact activity and it's very low hanging fruit for an agent to go get new other listings, is to just go around to the neighbors with door hangers. And we do that in our market area quite often. You can go with door hangers to announce a property that's just been listed. You can announce a property that's just been sold. You can announce an open house that's coming up on the weekend a few days before the open house event. And an example of that, we actually have a man that works in our office that was relatively new to the building and not a phenomenally high-end property. It was about $150,000 or $200,000 condo. But the condo association didn't have any restrictions about door hangers and door knocking, and we had an open house event coming up that this man was holding. And he decided, because all the condos were pretty close together, it was an easy situation to go knock on a lot of doors in a small geographical area. Probably knocked on about 40 doors in the community. He actually turned the listing that we had into 2 listings for himself, all within about a 2-week time period. So sometimes it's just a matter of going out and just doing the work, just doing the obvious things that some people neglect to do. So another thing that's smart that we do in our local market is we use directional house for sale signs to point traffic back to our listings. And these look a lot like open house signs. So they're directional, but they have obviously our company branding and a phone number. Perhaps you could design one with your name on it so that you're just getting more impressions and traffic to the listing that you already have if you're not leveraging that properly. Or perhaps, again, there are some listing agents that don't mind giving you a little bit of the credibility involved in those situations, especially maybe if you pay a referral fee on the buyer or seller that you generate as a result of those activities. So directional house for sale signs that are put at prominent street corners where they're getting a lot of traffic, I think that's a good way to get some exposure to your brand and your name in your market. I think another, obvious idea, but it's worth noting, is open houses. And to me, we do so much business from open houses. I think that if you're primarily looking for sellers for new listings, I think that the first open house is usually the best open house because oftentimes those are the open houses that the nosy neighbors come through and they want to see what's going on. But the condition of their neighbor's property, they want to see if their kitchen is as nice as theirs and the upgrades are as nice, and blah, blah, blah. So, the first open house often attracts a lot of nosy neighbors, which many times are good opportunities to put them into your database. And here's a little ninja tip, I guess, with those kind of customers that come through, the nosy neighbors. I like to ask those people if they would mind receiving email updates from you anytime that a new property either comes up for sale or has sold in their market. Is that something that's going to have an effect on the equity in their home? I mean, 99% of the time, the seller is always going to say, sure, that would be fantastic. And so, that's a great way to keep connected to this, this homeowner in the neighborhood. And obviously, they may not be ready to sell within the next 6 or 12 months, but they are going to be getting an email from you maybe once every couple weeks or once a month with neighborhood information that's important to the equity in their home. So they're going to start perceiving you as the trusted advisor. And whenever the time comes that they are ready to sell, then you will be the one that they reach to. So I think that are listing opportunities. Listings in your inventory regularly. I think it's important to maximize the listings that you already have. I think if you do a good job with the listings you have, it is going to get more listings, because sellers are going to look at the way that you market other properties as your track record. I think that the way you're marketing other properties is kind of your resume in this business. To me, I think the most important, most indicative part of determining if an agent is on top of photos or not is just simply if they're putting good photos in the MLS, if they look like the professional photography, if everything's got very good lighting, if they're using, in our market, it's all, we have 25 photo spots, so every property that we market deserves at least 25 photos. I think that it is indicative, in my opinion, of an agent that may be a little bit lazy in their marketing efforts if they're not putting all 25 of the photos in the slots that they have. So I think that it's important to use all the photos that you're given, make sure that they're very quality photos. I think it's also important to write very long MLS descriptions because, again, how you're marketing is going to be your resume. And for me, if I were a seller and I see somebody that puts a 2-second little paragraph about the property versus somebody that just really takes the time to think about itemizing all of the details of why the property is special or unique, I think that it's really important to use all the space that you've gotten. I also think it's important that when you're on your listing presentation, I think it's important to be accurate on your listing presentation. I think I heard a story in our office recently of a young man that he made a typo in his listing presentation with the price, and it was a simple typo, and he had done a really good job with everything else relative to that presentation, but it just was something that was off-putting to the seller, and thought that it might be a situation where there's more problems to come potentially if there was a typo in that situation. So we have a lot of new tours. There's a Matterport now. You can offer Matterport. Facebook is another very important social tool that we use to promote our listings, actually. So what we do with those is we boost the listings and the posts that we already have. And again, this is something that you could collaborate with an agent in the office on. We can target the lists extremely narrowly in Facebook, which I think is important to take a little minute to focus on. I mean, I don't know if geographically they offer different lists, but I know in our market, Facebook allows us to choose exactly who sees the ads that we pay for, and it's very cost effective. We usually don't have to spend more than about $50 or, I mean, sometimes $100 max to properly promote a property on Facebook. In the lists that they allow us to build, they will allow us to choose if we want only people with a net worth of no less than $2 million, only people that are interested in sailboats. So if we're marketing a $2 million sailboat water property, we can specifically choose to only have people with a net worth of at least $2 million who are interested in sailboats see that property. So there's a lot of other ways that you can really drill down the list, and I think that to overlook that is a big mistake. I think if you create something classy to put on the internet, maybe a nice video, maybe a nice flyer, and you boost it on Facebook, and it doesn't even have to be your own listing if you get permission from another agent to do some marketing on their listing. That I think is a very smart way to get directly in front of the eyeballs of people that are, not only looking potentially at that listing, but these are also people who probably have houses to sell. So I think that that's a very smart thing to do, and of course Twitter and Instagram and all the other ones have similar functions now, but Facebook's been working really well for us. So the other thing I would recommend is maximizing the buyers and sellers that you already have. And so with what I do with our own sellers in our inventory, when I'm reaching out to them, we usually update them once a week with the information that's been going on with relative to the going, just the typical check-in that we have with our sellers. And with every single contact and every single touch that I make with any, whether it's a buyer or without always ask them, do you know any friends today? So, I've done that with some weekly check-in. I've done it, on the first week, the second week, the third week, and they say no, no, no. And then maybe the fourth or fifth week, then I'll say, you know what, actually, there's this coworker or there's this somebody that just mentioned that they're needing a realtor to sell their home. So I can't times it's just as smart to just simply ask for the business. And if you wanted to even go a step and create a little story that goes along with that, one of the good stories that that I've used in the past is, we're not like a typical company. We're not doing all and the things that most other real estate companies do to advertise, but what we do is focus on exceptional customers, and so we put all our energy into that. And so as a result, we really rely on you for referrals, and if we've done a nice job for you, we would really appreciate if you tell your friends and family and contacts, and just simply having that conversation and setting that expectancy that you're not a normal realtor that's doing all the cold calling and sending postcards and doing all the silly stuff to generate business, but you're going to put all that energy that you would be expending on cold calling, you're going to put that into giving them amazing customer service, and as a result, you rely on them to send you new contacts. I think if you set that expectancy and tell them that story up front, I think that can really go a long way for you. So you want to maximize the buyers and sellers you already have and ask them that comes to mind. So, last but not least, we're trying to do some more high-impact stuff to create some listing appointments, to create opportunities to list property. I think that sometimes, the best thing to do is to just simply pick up the phone. And so in our market, we are in a season where we're having a lot of for sale by owners. So I recommend calling for sale by owners to preview the home and show up at the home. Even if you don't get a hold of anybody, just show up and knock on the door. I think that that's one of the most high-impact things that you can do. Recommend the same thing for expired properties. Call them, ask them why they feel the property hasn't sold, and show up. And when you do show up, I mean, just give them some honest feedback as to why you think that the house may or may not have sold, why maybe you're surprised that it hasn't sold, maybe everything's looking good and they priced it right in your opinion, and you're just surprised it hasn't sold. Maybe there's something when you go through and you preview it that is kind of obvious to you why it hasn't sold, and just be honest and authentic with them about that. But you can't be doing this business if you're not getting appointments and not showing up and not physically connecting with people who have houses to sell. So, focus on FSBOs, call them, book appointments, book expireds. I mean, my rule of thumb is I really prefer to use the phone as an setting tool. I don't like to get in any huge discussion whenever I'm trying to set up an appointment. So, just keep that in mind. Just set the appointment and show up. The other thing that's a little bit different is that we've had a lot of success with over the years is calling on ads that are houses for rent. Obviously, houses for rent are generally owned as an investment property by an investor, and so there's not really a big decision to make to sell necessarily. Nobody has to move. And I think at the right price, most investors would probably be interested in selling. So I think it's a smart move to call for rent ads and just ask if the owner would be interested in selling the property instead of renting it. So, clearly the house is vacant and the owner may very well be open to that. So call for rent. Also call garage sales. Sometimes garage sales are a key indicator of a property that's about to be going up for sale in the next few months. So, sometimes it's not, but sometimes it is. And so call garage sales that are advertised and ask them if this is something that they're getting ready for, if they're looking to start preparing to sell their home, and just let them know that you have a buyer. So I would call everyone, and your story needs to be that you have a buyer, and that needs to be an accurate story, because we're not here to misspeak or tell mistruths, but if you're in the real estate business and you don't have a buyer, you're doing it wrong. So call everyone and don't tell them about your listing service. Nobody cares about your listing service. I hate to say it, nobody cares about Allison James or any other real estate brokerage. All they care about is what they want, and they either want to sell their house or they don't want to sell their house. And so, what they want, if they want to sell their house, they want a buyer. They want to talk to somebody who has a buyer, and they want to make this process happen as quickly as they possibly can. So I'd recommend when you're calling people, when you're calling these FSBOs or expireds, or call them and tell them that you have somebody that wants to buy their house today if they want to sell. Don't try to tell them how important you are and how many houses that you've sold. Don't try to tell them how great Allison James is, because until they realize that you have what they want, they don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care about Allison James. They don't care about anything. So call them up and tell them that you have a buyer that wants to buy their house today if they want to sell. And this should never be a mistruth, because every house is worth something. It's up to you to figure out what that is. And usually everybody knows somebody that would buy something if it were priced significantly below what that's worth. I mean, if I told you today that there's a $100,000 house in town that you could instantly sell for $100,000, but the seller's willing to sell it for $50,000, would you be a buyer for that house? I'm pretty sure that you would be. Even if you don't even have the money, you would figure out how to be a buyer on that house because there's equity built into that. So, if you're in the real estate business, every single one of you should have a buyer that is willing to buy something at a moment's notice if it makes a lot of sense. So you can confidently go in, you can confidently show up and let them know that you have a buyer for that house. And then when you get in, depending on the situation, you can start to talk to them and ask them the reasons that they're moving, and the different things, and get it sorted out if their priority is to sell it quickly, if to sell to move on without having a big long marketing process, or their priority might be to maximize as much revenue or equity, I should say, from the sale as they possibly can. So obviously in those instances you could say, well, the buyer that I have in mind may not be the best buyer because he's usually looking for something a little bit below market, but with the proper marketing of maybe 60 to 90 days, and with this, this, and this, we can get you the price that you're wanting. So, show up and have a solution ready, but I think the best way to get your foot in the door is to talk about actually having a buyer, because that's what everybody wants. I mean, nobody wants to do the dance. They want to cut to the chase, and they want to do business. So I think those are my best suggestions that come to the top of my mind. And Sheena, if anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to me at any time, I'm welcome to do that. But I think as far as getting the overview of getting listings and doing more business, I think that those are some helpful tips that hopefully will be good for someone here.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone so much for joining us. We would like to give a huge thank you to Robert Milligan for another great Brokers Business Accelerator, and we'll see you all next month. Thanks, guys.